My favorite part about what we do is we're going after insurance companies. We're helping people out who have no control, and we immediately turn the tables. And I absolutely love that. So people call us in a moment of stress and chaos, whether it's a car accident, whether it's a dog bite, they don't know what to do about work. They don't know what to do about medical bills. They don't know what to do about insurance. The moment they hire us, we take care of all of that for people and then just turn the tables. As much as I enjoy working with adjusters and getting along with them and getting good results for my client, people who don't have lawyers, I see this all the time where insurance companies just take advantage of them. I can't tell you how many times people contact us and they're like, I called the insurance company and they offered to pay my bills and to give me $2,000. And I should I take that? And then 6 months later, we settle their case for $75,000. I love it that someone can come to me in a very chaotic, disruptive point in their life. And I've done this for 20 plus years. And I love being able to just say hey, I got this. You take care of yourself. Here, go get medical treatment, rest, get better, and I'll take care of everything. And, it takes all the pressure off and all the chaos going on in someone's life.
Welcome to Enrichment for the Real World, the podcast devoted to improving the quality of life of pets and their people through enrichment. We are your hosts, Allie Bender.
And I'm Emily Strong.
And we are here to challenge and expand your view of what enrichment is, what enrichment can be, and what enrichment can do for you and the animals in your lives. Let's get started. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Enrichment for the Real World. And I want to thank you for rating, reviewing, and subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts.
The voice you heard at the beginning of today's episode was Mike Agruss. Mike has always wanted to be a lawyer, and his own disempowering experiences as a child made him committed to using his legal practice to empower his clients as a result. By his own words, "I always knew I would represent individual clients and not companies, businesses, or insurance companies." Mike has been practicing law for over 2 decades and focuses on representing dog bite cases. I love that, like us, Mike is in a profession where it would be really easy to take a punitive, retaliatory approach. But instead, he chooses to use his position to empower his clients and advocate for them and for dogs as well. In this episode, you're going to hear Mike and I talk about how Mike turned his own experience with a dog bite into advocacy for others, how I turn into a trial lawyer when I get real mad, how the list of most dangerous dogs is accurate to an extent, but it's way more complicated than you might think, and simple things we can all do to improve everyone's safety, including the dogs. All right, let's get into it. Okay, tell us your name, pronouns, and pets.
Name, pronouns, and pets. Mike Agruss. Pronouns he, him, and I have one dog, Maisie.
Maisie, what kind of dog is Maisie?
Maisie's a rescue. She's a 20-pound Bernese Mountain Dog, Poodle, Cavalier King Charles. So her mom, I think, was a 40-pound dog, and her dad was a 10-pound Poodle.
That's very cute. That sounds like an incredibly cute combination of breeds.
So what's interesting about her is she's some hybrid, highly desired dog that some breeder in central Illinois, they couldn't sell. And my vet is part of a rescue league down in Decatur. And so my vet got a dog through this rescue league a couple of years ago. I'm like, "Oh my God, your dog's adorable." And he's like, "Oh, I know a rescue league down there. I'll let you know if anything ever pops up." What do you think happens? Something popped up, and here we have Maisie.
Amazing. I love that. Amazing. I do not apologize for my puns. Okay, tell us your story and how you got to where you are.
Sure. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing law for 21 years next month. I've had my firm for 13 years. We help people who've been injured. We have a focus on dog bites. And not only do we help people who've been bitten by dogs, but when I was in law school 20 plus years ago, my dog bit me in the face, unprovoked. I know what it's like to go to the emergency room, get stitched up by a plastic surgeon. and go through the whole process of being pressured in the emergency room to fill out an animal control report and all of that stuff. So not only do I do this as a lawyer, but I'm also familiar with it on the side of being bitten by a dog. But I'm a huge animal lover. Fortunately, at the time, I didn't have any kids, wasn't married, and just went to a trainer and learned how to interact and have my dog interact with other people so everyone would be safe. But anyway, that's, where I've come from and where I'm at today.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It is really scary for everybody involved when dog bites happen. So I appreciate you sharing your personal experience with that, and I'm sure that helps you be empathetic and supportive of your clients as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so not only have I been handling dog bites ever since my first job out of law school, I'll never forget the first case that I handled, but I know exactly what it's like to be bitten by a dog, and, it was in my face and it was scary. And, so I feel like both my experience as an attorney and also just my experience going through this ordeal, I'm able to give people a lot of good advice on what to do, even if it's just as far as treatment, managing dogs, even if I give people advice all the time who don't even pursue legal action, but just tell them like, hey, here's what you can do. Here's how you can, make the situation better. I've got young kids. I've always had dogs. We have a dog now. And so, I deal with this all day long.
Yeah. So let's start by talking about dog bites in general, because my impression after being involved in animal welfare since 1990 is that most people in animal welfare related fields don't have a real grasp on dog bite statistics. And I think that is made worse by some breed discriminatory websites that intentionally skew those statistics. But that can lead to a whole lot of misunderstanding and misperceptions and misinterpretation. And since your area of expertise is dog bite laws, I would love to hear your take on dog bite statistics, like what they actually are, the really reals, and where the real risks lie. Where are some maybe overblown risks, and what are some of the risks that maybe get glossed over? And obviously I need to just preface this by saying, if an animal has teeth, that animal has the potential to bite. So there's always a risk. Like humans are also a risk. Like interaction with humans also risks violence occurring. So I'm not saying that there are situations where there are no risks, but where are they maybe overblown? Where are they underrepresented? Where do they get glossed over? All that stuff. Talk to me. Give me the skinny.
All right. So here's the deal with dog bite statistics. So at least what's reported, and this is reported all over the place, is there are about 4.5 million dog bites per year in the U.S. I actually think that number is low. And the reason I think it's low is because oftentimes it's unreported, right? So when we're helping people out with dog bites, most of the time we're dealing with family members or we're dealing with neighbors. So we have a lot of cases where someone is going after a family member's insurance or they're going after a neighbor's insurance. And then we have a lot of situations too, which I would imagine like me, when I was bitten in the face by my dog and was brought to the emergency room, I did not want to report it. I did not fill out an animal control report. I didn't want anything to happen to my dog. So statistics say 4.5 million. I think that number is higher because it goes unreported. And then that also takes into consideration bites that, maybe your dog nipped you or it's a puppy and, there's like a scratch on your finger and you don't do anything. So breaking that down from 4.5 million, which I think is a very low number considering that's what's just reported, 800,000 bites a year require medical attention. So that's probably getting more accurate because once you're at the hospital, even if you don't report it to animal control, at least the hospital's keeping track of it. So 4.5 million bites a year, 800,000 people require medical attention. And then distilling it down even further, they say 330,000 people are admitted to the emergency room every year for dog bite injuries. Most injuries are puncture wounds to the hands and arms. Not surprisingly, 60% of dog bites are to children, and very low number as far as fatal attacks. It's anywhere from like 30 to 50 deaths per year as a result of dog bites. I think in general, though, as far as how many happen per year, I think it's very underreported. simply because you're dealing with family, you're dealing with friends, and you're dealing with neighbors. We do represent people who go to a dog park and a stranger's dog, will attack their dog and they'll try to intervene and they're bitten by a dog. But for the most part, you're dealing with people you know. And when you're dealing with people you know, it goes unreported, right?
Well, yes, usually. I have some nightmare stories of neighbors being inappropriate and actually trespassing on my client's property and the dog biting them in the dog's home where the neighbor was not invited in, and the neighbor pursuing legal charges. And I'm like, I don't understand how you can be trespassing and have a leg to stand on legally, but that's why I'm not a lawyer because that's not my job.
You sound like a lawyer because you bring up there are 2 defenses in Illinois, and you got one of the defenses. And what's interesting about this, they're complete defenses, meaning if you provoke a dog or you are trespassing, you cannot go after someone and get paid out by insurance. Those are the 2 defenses in Illinois, and every state's different, but about 35 states in the country have what's called strict liability. That means the dog owner is responsible for any injuries caused from a dog bite, period, minus 2 exceptions: trespassing and if someone provoked the dog. So the example you gave sounds like a lot of neighborly drama that we deal with often, where were they invited over? Weren't they invited over? Did they jump the fence or whatever? But I think the most extreme example that people would understand is if you have a dog and someone breaks into your house and the dog bites that person, clearly the person who breaks in doesn't have a case. And then we have the other defense is provocation, right? So if you're pulling the dog's ear, pulling its tail, poking at it. I had a case that was super interesting last year where my client put her arm around the dog to take a selfie picture. And the dog didn't like that and bit her in the face. So trespass and provocation are the 2 defenses, and it comes up a lot.
Yes, unfortunately, I was in a state where that was not the case, and the plaintiff won the case, and I was like, "How is this justice?" But it's fine. I can go to therapy for this. We don't need to talk about this today on the podcast. So, in terms of like with your direct experience working with clients who have been bitten by dogs, do you see situations? Okay, so we just talked about like provocation and trespassing, right? But are there situations that you see like a recurring theme where you're like, y'all, you can avoid your dog biting somebody and you being taken to court over it if you do these things? So like, what are the things that you see are like common recurring themes where like this could have been avoided if blank?
Great question. A lot of times people know that their dog may have aggressive tendencies, may be anxious, may be nervous, especially with neighbors who both have dogs. So for example, we see this a lot where one of my clients is bit by a neighbor's dog. The neighbor's having a party. There's a lot of people in the backyard. Their dog is anxious. And then the neighbor next door has a dog. And so they're going back and forth between the fences. It's, if you have any question, like if you're concerned at all about your pet for whatever situation or for whatever reason, especially in a social situation, especially when there's kids involved, put the dog away. Like we, for example, I grew up with dogs. We've always rescued dogs. I always got my dogs from the Chicago Humane Society. And then when I was older, I got my first dog from Humane Society out in Orange County. We've rescued dogs and all of this. Maisie we've had for a couple of years. Prior to Maisie, we had 2 dogs, and both of our dogs were older and a little bit cranky. When we'd have people over and there were little kids over, we would just put them in our bedroom, food and water, just let them hang out, just so you don't have to worry about it. So it's a lot of simple steps that you can take to prevent it. I hear this a lot from clients where they're at a family member's house, they're at a friend's house, they're at a neighbor's house, there's a party, there's young kids around. There's just a lot going on, and all someone has to do is put their dog in a kennel, put the dog in a bedroom, and just keep them away from the chaos of what they're not normally used to. And I think that would prevent a lot of dog bites.
Yes, absolutely. I fully agree with you. And I will tell you that on my end of it, where my work with these clients, the reasons that they don't do that is there's 2 primary reasons. One, they feel social pressure to have their dogs be a part of the family. So family members are pressuring them, like, bring your dog over. Our dogs can play together, things like that. The second reason that people do that is because they're afraid that they're not giving their dogs enough of an enriching life, and they don't want to, their perception is that confinement is depriving their animal of enrichment. So a lot of what we do when we're working with cases where the dog has a bite history is we teach people how to make that confinement enriching for the dog. We kind of get rid of that false dichotomy. It's not either you take your dog out, give the dog enrichment, and put everybody else at risk, or your dog has to be confined and live in an under enriching environment. You can keep everybody safe and also give this dog everything that they need to have a really good quality of life and meet all their needs while they're in that space. So I think that's something that I wanted to add to what you were saying, is like, I absolutely agree with you. And also the reasons that people do that are because of fears that aren't true. And we also help clients, we coach clients through how to have like set boundaries with family members. Like, no, I'm sorry, our dog would not enjoy that. I know that's what you want, and we're going to do what our dog needs. And our dog does not need to go play with your dog. Our dog is not going to enjoy going to the family barbecue. So that's the other component of what we do, is we help coach clients through how to set boundaries for kind of combating that social pressure that got them into the situation in the first place.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. My kids are 10 and 8. My son's 10, my daughter's 8. And all our family members have dogs. And before I had kids, my dogs were my kids. Now that I have kids, I mean, I'm obsessed with Maisie. My wife makes fun of me, but like, once you have kids, the dogs are dogs. And anyway, my wife and I used to joke that once we had kids, like our family members used to bring their dogs over, we'd have dogs. And we had a new household policy that was, we are not BYOD, bring your own dog. You like that? So we are not a BYOD house anymore. I don't want your dog at my house, right? Because when you have kids, it totally changes things. And that was one thing that we had to train our kids, because when they were born, our dogs were older and cranky, hearing issues, seeing issues. And, when you're old and cranky and, it hurts to walk. And if someone bumps into you or accidentally steps on your foot, you might hear a growl, you might hear a snap. And I mean, these dogs were 15, 20 pounds. They're tiny. But you gotta, we spent a ton of time teaching our kids that. And when we had older, crankier dogs and, the kids wanted all their friends over, we would just put them away. It's fine. Everyone can say hi to the dog when they come over, but like, as the party's going and everyone's running around, I don't want anyone, to accidentally step on the dog or do something. So yes, I mean, very simple. Just lock your dog up, put it in a kennel. Don't bring it to the family barbecue. I was trying to think, like, I would say most of my dog bite cases are that. We do get we do get a situation where someone's like, I was out walking my dog. Someone's dog was not properly tied up, or the door was open, the dog gets out, and we do see attacks like that. But a lot of times it's literally parties, family gatherings, or, the dog's not used to a 3-year-old who is eye level with the dog and pokes and prods and pulls and throws everything, and the dog growls and gets mad and snaps.
Yeah, I mean, all of that is so real, and it's so true. And I think that one of the things that you brought up that is really important is, I mean, you didn't say it directly, but the kind of the thing that you were discussing with all of that is that nobody in that situation has the skills to navigate dog-child interactions. Right. And so like that's the problem, is like, it's not that children can't be taught how to successfully interact with dogs. That's literally our job. Like at Pet Harmony, like that's one of the things that we do. It's not that guests can't learn boundaries and rules and skills. That's also our job. We also teach clients how to teach people who come over how to appropriately interact. It's that when nobody has those skills and you bring everybody into a shared space all at once, and you don't even have the ability to do really smart antecedent arrangement and to do really smart skill building, then it is going to go sideways. It's going to go sideways because you have a bunch of unskilled individuals sharing a very small space, right? So it's almost guaranteed. Like, I'm shocked that it doesn't happen more often than it does, right?
Totally. I mean, I could probably one of the most serious cases we ever handled. I mean, it's a really sad story. New Year's Eve party. This dog was a retired canine dog from the police force. Massive German Shepherd, retired canine dog, had cancer, was going through chemo. I mean, like, just really sad, like it. And they had people over with a bunch of kids. And what do you think happened? And it's like, all they had to do is just put the dog on the bed or like upstairs, just block off this, just something. And it was really scary and sad. And a 3-year-old girl was bit across the face by this German Shepherd. And it's, it's awful and it's sad and it's scary. And like, you feel bad for everyone involved, right? And then you think, and you're like, man, all those things with like old, cranky, sick, on medication. And then we're having a party with a bunch of young kids around. I mean, it just, it happens all the time. So that was a terrible case, really sad case all around that we handled. And I'm an animal lover. And so I feel bad for the animals too. Like, the dog should have never been in that situation, right? A lot of family gatherings, a lot of backyard gatherings, a lot of parties in houses. And the dogs are, stressed out, new environment, new people. And then especially with kids, just being eye level and, kids don't have impulse controls. They don't listen. My 10-year-old doesn't listen. It's like, what do people expect's going to happen,
Yeah. I think that's exactly it, is that like, you're dealing with children and children don't have those skills, and they don't yet have the fully developed prefrontal cortex, where even if they don't have skills yet, they have the ability, like the neurological ability to go, wait a minute, is this a good idea? Like, they physically can't do that yet. Like, their brains haven't developed that much yet. Right. So if without having a professional come in and teach you how to teach your children and help you teach your children how to work, how to safely be around dogs, it is a really, really high risk. And you can't force your family members or your friends, whoever comes over, you can't force them to hire a professional to come teach their children how to safely interact with your dog. Like, you can't do that, right? So like, there's so many layers of complications into why that like management strategy, just keep the dog out of that space, is so much better. It's just the better recommendation for the majority of people. And if you are somebody who really, really wants to have your dog out, then the only way you're going to do that safely is by hiring a professional who can teach you all of those skills. Teach your dog the skills they need. Teach you the skills you need. Teach your children the skills they need. Teach you how to teach your guests the skills that they need, right? And it's a lot of labor and it's a lot of time. And so what we tell clients all the time, like, if this is your goal, I will support you through the whole thing. Also, this is what it's going to take for you to reach your goal. And you can decide at any point that the labor is not worth it to you. And then we can talk about what enriching management looks like instead. And that is the conversation that we have with clients, because I think a lot of people don't realize how much work goes into making their idealistic dream of having their dog at the family barbecue really takes, right?
Yes, agreed. And I went through this when I was in law school, and my dog bit me because people were asking me. I mean, it literally missed my eye by like half an inch, and I had 9 stitches under my eye. I had a plastic surgeon come into the emergency room to fix it. My nose, my mouth, like things got scraped and scratched and bleeding. And people were asking me if I was going to put the dog down. And like I said, I didn't have kids at the time. And what I decided to do is I asked my vet to refer me to a trainer who specifically had experience with dogs who have bitten before. And what's interesting is I was the one who needed to be trained. It was, the trainer said, look, if you decide to keep this dog, here are the things you need to do. Don't pick the dog up ever. Don't roughhouse with the dog. Don't lay on the dog. Even though I wasn't doing any of that stuff. I mean, this was 20 something years ago. I was in law school. I smoked cigarettes. I was out front stoop having a cigarette, and my dog was sitting next to me, and I literally just put my arm around the dog. Didn't even pull the dog in, and he just turned and snapped right across my face. But those were the things that I needed to learn, because I used to pick him up. I used to cuddle with him. I used to bring him in my bed. I used to like wrestle with him and roughhouse. And so I made a decision to learn how to interact with him that would be, a way that would reduce this as much as possible. And then I also knew, like, okay, I was careful when I took him on walks, when people would come up and want to pet him. And, I would just say, like, no thanks. And, just to really just be super, super, super cautious to just never be in that situation again. I kept him until he was probably like 12 years old. He was super sick. Like he came from a kill shelter in Santa Ana, in Orange County. And anyway, I kept him his whole life. He got super sick and I ultimately had to put him down. It was really sad. But I had him for years and years and years after that. And the point is like the trainer taught me how to interact with him to make sure that things would be as safe as possible.
That's beautiful. I mean, first of all, I love your commitment to your dog, even after that happened to you.
He was my boy.
That's so beautiful. And I love that trainer taught you how to keep yourself safe around your dog. And I will just put it out there for the sake of the podcast that we've learned a lot about behavior in 20 years. And so now what we focus on, I mean, and not every training methodology or ideology does this, but those of us who are paying attention to the research and to enrichment and all of that, what we now do is we teach people how to very carefully, in addition to like doing things like, like don't put yourself in dangerous situations with your dog, right? We teach people how to read body language so that they can listen to and appropriately respond to animals, so you can have a conversation with that animal. We teach people what a dog's ladder of escalation and de-escalation look like, so they can accurately identify where their dog is on their stress sequence. And we teach dogs how to seek a safe space instead of seeking conflict. So how to move away instead of moving towards, how to communicate and say no, thank you, how to opt in and opt out of things. And also how to say no in a more polite way. Like we teach diplomatic skills of like, you don't have to go from 0 to 60 instead of being like, I'm fine. Actually, no, I'm a cut you. We teach dogs how to have this like, diplomatic process, right? So like we are capable of doing so much more now. And even though that is true, and we still do that, the things that your trainer taught you are still the things that we recommend that our clients teach their guests. And there may be some other cues that like, it depends on the circumstance, right? There may be some cues that we can teach our clients to teach our guests how to do. But in general, that just like, here's like 101 how to protect yourself when you're around a dog is like the bare minimum of what you need to be teaching people if they're going to interact with your dog, especially if your dog has a bite history.
Yeah, totally. And it was something, I grew up with dogs where we could always carry them. We could pick them up. We could put them on the couch. We could put them on the bed. My dog growing up there was this little like poodle mutt from Anti-Cruelty Society in Chicago, and I had a dog bed in my room, and this was like junior high and high school, and she would literally sleep in my room in the dog bed, and she would like in the dog bed on the floor, and she would literally sit there and pace until I would like tuck her under the blanket on the dog bed. So that's what I was used to. And so when I got my first dog in college on my own, he was a Wheaten Terrier Chow mix. He was male, not, he wasn't like the cute little poodle that weighed 20 pounds. He's a 60-pound dog, and chows, they might be on the list of people to talk. So anyway, I didn't know, and I was doing things that I was used to growing up with dogs with him. And then, and then I wasn't doing anything, just sitting next to him. I put my arm around him and he bit me. And then I was like, okay, I took a step back. The trainer taught me. But yeah, what you're talking about now, 20 years later, I've watched a lot of trainers and videos, and I think it's super interesting to learn about like dog body language and what they do and the warnings they give, and giving them, like, even our sweet little Maisie has her own kennel with like a really comfy bed on it, and she likes going in it on her own, right? And so she has that spot, and to give dogs those space. And so yeah, I'm sure although some of these things are the same 20 years later, but I'm sure there's a ton more going on now that's interesting. And once again, the cases that I handle or the people I help or talk to and give advice, it really, like, when you look back on it, it's not that complicated. I mean, half of my cases are people in social situations that are 10 times crazier than the dog is used to, and there's usually a small kid involved.
Yes. I mean, I think that's what you're telling me is very much in alignment with my experience on the other side of this as the behavior consultant who's supporting the people who have the dog who bites, right? And so I think What one of the things that I really wanted you to kind of speak to is we do encounter clients. I mean, my selection bias with the clients that we work with our ICA, our demographic of clients, we don't encounter this frequently, but we do sometimes get clients who aren't taking it seriously enough. Like they're kind of dismissive of it. And I think part of that is a fear that if they acknowledge that it's a serious problem, then they might be acknowledging that they feel like they're acknowledging failure on their part, which they're not. It's not a failure on their part. Or they're admitting that their dog is a monster, which their dog is not a monster, right? Or they're acknowledging that, oh, they've got a lot of work to do and, we're all busy and we have limited resources. And so all of those fears are valid, but them kind of dismissing or denying, not taking it seriously is not doing them any favors. So how do you, when you encounter people like that who are like not taking it seriously enough, who are kind of being dismissive, how do you talk them through? How do you help them to realize like, no, let me tell you, as the person who is working for the plaintiffs here, let me tell you what you actually have to lose. So how do you, what does that conversation look like for you?
It's really hard because I see people, because I deal with this all the time and I deal with people who are bitten by dogs and I've been bitten by dogs. I see things all the time when I'm out like walking my dog or I'm at the dog park or you see, it's really hard because I don't want to overstep. I'm usually the person someone's talking to, probably much like you. It's after the fact, right? So what I do through clients and social media and all is to just try to educate people as far as, here are warning signs. Here's a perfect example, because like you said, it's an animal, it has teeth and stuff happens. You know what's wild about our dog Maisie right now, who's like the sweetest dog in the world, and I do all the wrong things because, she loves me. Like we cuddle on the couch. She sleeps under the blanket next to me. She follows me around. She's in bed. My wife thinks I'm nuts with this dog. It's so interesting you say that. There's one person in the house that the dog will occasionally growl at, my daughter. And we have to explain. I don't even know if I've ever heard Maisie growl. It's like when I'm not around, Lila's doing something to her, and we constantly have to tell Lila, you can't put like a blanket on her. You can't pull her by her front legs to get her closer to you. Like these are things that you can't do. So I see it a little bit at my house with my dog, but most of the time we're dealing with it's after the fact. And so my best advice for people, having seen this for 20 plus years, simple things, and to bring it sort of like full circle what you're talking about. Like I've got the sweetest dog in the world. She's never done anything to me, to anyone, nothing. She rolls on her belly, loves belly rubs. So randomly a couple, like every other month, she'll quick growl at my daughter. If you have a dog in Illinois, make sure you have homeowners insurance or renter's insurance. It's that simple, right? It's like you have car insurance, because shit happens. Shit happens with dogs. Make sure you have renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance and make sure you're covered. Because if something happens, you want to make sure that you have insurance to cover it.
It would be awesome if we lived in a society where insurance was not how we were able to protect ourselves. I think that more mutual aid type societies would be ideal, and we can work towards that. And in the meantime, that's not the society we live in. So insurance is the thing that you have to do to protect yourself.
Well, right. And sorry to interrupt, but it's like we do all these things like safety with cars, right? So there's anti-lock brakes, there's sensors that will automatically stop your car. We've got airbags, we've got all of these safety protocols, but at the end of the day, people still get into car crashes, and everyone, in Illinois, you're required to have car insurance, and that's why people have it. And it's the same thing with dogs, right? Like you never think something's going to happen. You don't want something to happen, but you want to make sure that if something happens, because at the end of the day, they are animals, they have teeth, and you never know, that you do have insurance. And renter's insurance is inexpensive. You can probably get it for like $25 a month and be covered. So in case something happens, you have insurance, just like car insurance, just like having health insurance, because things happen.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't think, I don't even know that it's about don't think. I'm not sure that a lot of people even realize that insurance to protect themselves from dog bites is a thing. So like just being like helping people be aware of that, you know, like, yes, that's part of why you have homeowners insurance or renters insurance or whatever is a thing. And it's the same like in our field. We work in an unregulated field, and so there are a lot of people who go around doing this job and don't have professional insurance. And it's like, well, that's scary. Right? Liability insurance as a professional who works with animals who have the capacity to bite. I mean, that's one kind of extreme sport. Like if that's how you get your rush, like you to you, but but like that's not. I'd rather do base jumping if I had to choose between those two things. Thank you very much.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So get insurance. Like I said, renters, make sure you're covered. The great thing in Illinois, this is different in other states. Like, for example, in Florida happens to always be in the top 5 states where the most dog bites happen. Florida homeowners and renters insurance doesn't cover dog bites. It's wild. So in Illinois, unless you have some sort of exclusion or, you know, you got to be careful. There's like breed exclusions as well. So in Illinois, you might have automatic coverage for homeowners and renters. However, if your dog falls under these 10 breeds, you might not be covered. So yeah, it just, totally, if you have a dog in Illinois, even if you rent, just get renter's insurance and then you're covered. Because the last thing you want to happen is, you know, your dog bites a neighbor, family, or something. And even if it's not horrendous, that person's going to have medical bills. You know, like even like we tell people, for example, like even if you have a puncture wound, we tell people like it might not seem like a big deal. Like, please go see a doctor. Make sure you get the vaccinations. Make sure. We've seen really small bites turn into just like horrendous infections. And so we always tell people to, you know, go get medical treatment and get checked out. So even what seems like a know-nothing bite could trigger several thousands of dollars in medical bills, a couple of doctor's visits and stuff like that. And the last thing you want to do is be stuck with someone who's like, hey, your dog bit me and I have $5,000 in medical bills and I can't pay that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you brought up something that I actually am really curious about. Does your experience with dog bites align with the breeds that are like the dangerous breed du jour? Like there's even like every year there's like top 10 most dangerous breeds. Does your experience align with those sort of like classifications of dangerous dogs? In terms of like the dogs who are doing the biting?
Yes, it does. And I post about this on social media, videos. I talk to people about it. I do content about it. And if I do any video on social media and mention the word pit bull, whether I say they're the best dogs in the world or the worst dogs in the world, I get the most responses. Good, bad. It's triggering for people to say the word pit bull. But yeah, to answer your question, I don't get a lot of calls from people who are saying they were bit by fuzzy, Bernese, poodle, Bichon, 20-pound poofy animals. We have a lot of cases, and I know when I say pit bull, people are going to jump down my throat and say that's not a breed. It's, but look, we get people who contact us, and I was attacked by a pit bull. Some of the worst cases I've seen and handled are German Shepherds. I don't know. You know, it goes back to how many people are bitten by dogs a year. I don't know if this is like a reporting issue or if it's like, well, yeah, if you're bit by a 20-pound dog, the chances of someone being seriously injured and requiring medical treatment is probably less than if you're bit by an 80-pound German Shepherd, right? Unless there's an infection. But it's like, my dog's not going to, you know, she's this tiny little animal. She's not going to rip your face off and require you to have plastic surgery. Whereas a bigger dog, whether it's a lab, a German Shepherd, a Doberman Pinscher, or like a Labradoodle, a poodle, they have a bigger mouth, a bigger bite. And, but yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes. We get most of our calls are people who are bit by pit bulls and German Shepherds.
That is fascinating. And, I believe you. And also I'm really curious as to why that is. And I think like you touched on some of that as like, you know, they are the large dogs, so they have the capacity to do the most damage. I have sus face every time I see those lists, because when I was in the 90s, when I was working in a vet clinic, in the clinic reported by most dog bites were Cocker Spaniels, Dachshunds, Dalmatians, Shar-Peis, and Chows. And then in the aughts, I was in a different play. I don't know. There are differences between what I was doing in the 90s and what I was doing in the aughts. But I didn't see any aggressive Cocker Spaniels, but it felt like every healer that came in was biting, every blue healer, or like, Australian cattle dog. And we had this big run of golden retrievers who were severe resource guarders, severely anxious. And so golden retrievers, like America's Family Dog, was on the top list of dogs who were biting. And so like what I was seeing in vet clinics of being the dogs who were biting the most did not align with the list of like the top breeds. And so anytime there's a misalignment like that, my question is always, what selection biases are at play? Like what is happening that like what we're seeing in our selection bias is different than the one that's being reported. But I will say that there are, like, first of all, there are lineages. So like breeders will breed dogs and they have these like cluster of people who are all crossbreeding with each other. And so then they have these like their breed has these moments or these eras of specific breed traits, and then they correct that and breed it out of it. So I do think there is something to be said for like specific breeds having like peaks and valleys in terms of their behavioral soundness. But I also wonder how much of it is almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy of like, we believe that pitties are dangerous, and so we treat them dangerously, and so then they have crap people skills, so they bite, so I'm wondering how much of that is part of it. And I also wonder how much of it is like people not understanding breed tendencies and then exacerbating things. I see this a lot with pitties and with herding breeds, where people don't understand their breed typical behaviors and they react poorly to those breed typical behaviors, and then they cause aggression as a result of that. So you don't have to answer any of those questions for me or solve any of that, but I just find it fascinating that your experience aligns with the kind of dangerous breeds, because that has not historically been my experience. Although when I worked at an animal sanctuary, I did for 2 years, I documented all of the pitty type dogs and their dog skills. And they were, as a group, significantly, I can't remember, it was like a 24-76 split, if I remember correctly, but it was a decade ago, of like their ability to have good dog skills versus like the other breed types in the sanctuary. So there's a kernel of truth to all of it, right?
Yeah, totally. And it's you bring up something that's interesting that got me thinking. So I'm super into data, technology, AI. I run my law firm like a business. We use all this, like, I've invested so much in technology and data and reporting and all of this. And so we keep track of tons of things. And this is, you just, like a light bulb went off in my head, where this is probably something, I would be curious to myself to learn if we had like a drop down menu of like 10 breeds, and when people call that we just, drop it down and select it. I will say this, that we get calls a lot on pit bulls. We get calls a lot on German Shepherds. I'm part of this Facebook group where people talk about dog bites and facial traumas, and I see that as well. And I think the first time I ever heard about this, or the first time I got a call, someone called me like a month ago. They were actually referred to me, and she said, it was some sort of doodle mix. And it's interesting. I can't, minus that woman who called me. She was, she cleaned houses, and the dog bit her in the hand. Anyway, I don't know if I've ever gotten a call on a poodle before, even though this was a poodle mix. And she was like, oh, it was like a labradoodle or something, but something that you don't hear about a lot. And so whether any of this is true or not, or it just, these are the people calling, or though, like, of course, if you have a 100-pound dog versus a 10-pound dog, no matter what it is, the 100-pound is bigger with a bigger mouth and can cause more, I don't know. But you got me thinking that I should just keep track of it, because I'm curious.
Yeah. I mean, it would be interesting to find out what you track. And also I wouldn't be surprised if your general sense of what's happening aligns with your data because of the populations you work with. And also the data is skewed for you, especially because you are getting the people who the bites were bad enough for them to seek legal help. right? And so like what to your point of like the bigger dogs who can do more damage, I think German Shepherds have struggled for decades. Pitties have struggled for the past couple of decades. I mean, they used to be rock solid dogs, and then we did stuff to them, right? But it would be really interesting to see what happens, because I think it is way more complicated than everybody turns it out to be, and I'm not saying that to dismiss anybody's experience. I'm saying that because I have a real problem with breed specific legislation and breed exclusion and insurance and things like that, and that generally comes from skewed data, right? So and skewed data and public perception. So that's my little advocacy TED talk.
No, I hear you, and I find it interesting, and I don't know if anyone will ever really have the answer to this, just because once again, if you get into a car accident, like in Illinois, if you get in a car accident, you've got property damage over $500, you're required to report it. So I feel like most people and most car accidents are probably reported, right? Because people want their insurance to fix it, so even if it's just property damage. Whereas dog bites, it's you don't, like, I was bit in the face and had 9 stitches by a plastic surgeon. I didn't report it. And that was like, to me, that's pretty serious. Where I'm sure you've got a lot of these little dogs that bite people, and it's like, oh, I'll wash my hand and put some Neosporin and a Band-Aid on. So maybe little Chihuahuas are biting people nonstop. But no one's reporting it.
Yeah. Well, and to your point about the doodle, when you said that, my like internal like knee-jerk reaction was like, yeah, welcome to Tuesday. And then I realized that the reason I think that way about doodles is because I spent 8 years in Utah, and Utah has terrible breed diversity. The overwhelming majority of dogs in Utah are doodles, herding breeds, and hound dogs. And that's it. And not even all hound dogs, scent hounds in particular. And so you just don't see a lot of breed diversity. So of course, doodles are going to be overrepresented in that population in terms of bite cases, because there just aren't that many other dog breeds to compare to, right? And so you may have in your area fewer doodles than we had in Utah. And also you may have, I think, where the part of Illinois you're in has a lot like higher caliber of like training quality, like resources, than the most of the state of Utah does. So that also may reflect some differences in like how often a doodle is prone to bite. So there's just so many different factors that go into this.
No, totally. And one additional layer to add on to this from what we're talking about is I get calls nonstop of people who have horrific injuries from dog bites, and I can't help them because the owner doesn't have insurance. So I might get 5 phone calls and I can only help 1 or 2 people. And so if those 1 or 2 people are in my system and I am keeping track of things and data and what's going on, there's another 3 people who aren't in my system who I don't know a ton about. And so unlike auto accidents where most everyone has insurance, and in Illinois, you're required to have uninsured motorists, meaning maybe once or twice a year we have to turn someone away because there's no insurance, because no one's driving with insurance or whatnot. We can't help people all the time, every single day with dog bites, because people don't have insurance. They don't have renters. They don't have homeowners. They don't know who the dog owner is. There's a lot of like variables. Like we have some people who are walking down the street and there's a dog who, oh yeah, I've seen it in the neighborhood and it bit me, but I don't know whose dog it is. So it complicates things, and I don't have a clear-cut answer. Where like you go look up data on how many car crashes there are in Illinois, you're going to get an accurate number. How many car deaths per year, you're going to get an accurate number. The dog stuff is just all over the place. And you bring up a really good point where like it could just be based on what dogs are around.
Yeah, I think in summary, it's complicated.
It totally is. I will say this, the biggest trigger that I can say that people like, whether, if I say pit bull, no matter what I say after that, there's people who are commenting.
Yeah. I mean, poor, the pity type dogs, I feel really bad for them because they have been heavily politicized. And so like, that is the thing, is now people have these really big reactions. It's really hard for people to listen to each other and like dig into the dialectics and find out like, how 2 seemingly opposing viewpoints can actually have commonalities, and there can actually be like mutually true things that seem in opposition. And it's really hard to have those conversations because there's just been this like polarizing politicization around these poor dogs. So yeah, it is hard. I'm just going to throw out there, because I want to get to our kind of final questions, but I just want to say for people listening, there are two programs that specifically help create safety and build relationships and skills around kids and dogs. One is the Family Dog, which we have Family Dog certified folks on our staff. So find a trainer who is Family Dog certified. The other one is Living with Kids and Dogs by Colleen Pellar. That's another great resource for you if you have kids and dogs and you want, or if you're a behavior professional and you would like to help your clients protect their children and their dog from each other. Those are the two programs that we strongly recommend. And Colleen has a lot of resources beyond just courses. The Family Dog course is like a certification program for dog training professionals, and they have resources for clients as well. So throwing that out there for anybody listening to this who's like, oh my God, yeah, I need to take this more seriously. Those are the two avenues we recommend, and those resources will be linked in the show notes.
Awesome. I was going to say, can you send them to me? Because I would love to share them. We do newsletters every month. We're constantly posting on social media, and I'm always trying to help people out. And here's the insurance you should get, and here are things that you can do. Because once again, a lot of this it's just some basics and some preventative measures you can take. And, like one simple thing that we've ingrained in our kids is anytime you see any dog with someone, you always ask, can I pet your dog? Just ask and just wait. And if they say yes, you hold your hand out the back of your hand, let the dog approach you and sniff, just like super, super basic stuff. And if anyone's ever hesitant, I tell our kids, like, if you hear any hesitancy or pause, just say, oh, okay, no thanks, I'm good.
That is beautiful. I love that so much. I just if everybody did that, we would live in a very different society. If doing nothing else, that alone would be a massive cultural shift for us, not just for children, but for dogs as well. I love that. Thank you for doing that with your kids.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that as well. I love that. Okay, so at the end of every interview, I like to ask the same set of questions. So the first one of those is, what are our observable goals and actionable items that people can take away from this discussion?
Two things. If you have a dog, make sure you have insurance, even if it's just renter's insurance. There's a ton of carriers out there that will offer it for $20-$30. Get it. It'll protect you. Second thing I always tell people is, if you're bitten by a dog, no matter how insignificant it seems, go get treatment, go to an urgent care, go to a minute clinic. You want it checked out, cleaned out, stuff like that, to make sure there's no infection. And I'd say the third most important takeaway that I tell people all the time is, if you have a significant bite, especially if it's to your face, have a plastic surgeon check it out. Not in a million years would I have ever thought to have a plastic surgeon do my stitches. And the only reason I was fortunate enough is my dad's in the medical field. He met me at the emergency room. I went to the hospital he went to. And the ER doctor was going to stitch me up. And my dad said, hey, will you page the plastic surgeon? And I remember this specifically thinking like, what are you talking about? And he's like, it's on your face. You want to have a plastic surgeon fix it. So I think if you look right here, you can see this is what a scar looks like from an ER doctor when I was like 3 years old and hit my head on the crib and stitched me up. But underneath my eye right here, I have 9 stitches, and you would never be able to tell. So that's the third piece of advice is, and I tell this oftentimes to parents whose kids are bit in the face, because they're shorter people, dogs are eye level, kids get bit in the face all the time. Go see a plastic surgeon.
Yeah, I love that. And you were right. I know our listeners can't see you, but I would have never have known that you had 9 stitches under your eye. There's not even a trace. So that is amazing. Yeah, I for, in my 20s, I think 20s is the decade to be like excessively judgmental, because you don't know enough to know how complicated everything is. But I used to feel kind of judgy feelings towards plastic surgeons until I realized that they did more than just like facelifts and tummy tucks. And when I realized like the extraordinary work they do with like severe injuries and trauma, I was like, okay, that's amazing.
It is. And I've met a couple of them in the area, and not only are plastic surgeons with dog bites incredible because they can help you with scars and revision treatment and all of that, scar revision treatment. Dermatologists are great too. So we'll tell people all the time, and we help people go to dermatologists because there's laser treatment you can get done. There's different creams. So dermatologists are a huge asset too. So for example, if you have a bite on your hand and you're like, all right, I'm not going to go see a plastic surgeon because of that. You just brought up a great point. Go see a dermatologist. They're incredible. We refer people to them all the time.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. So thank you for sharing that as well. I would not have thought of that either. This is why we have you on the podcast, because you know things that we don't.
Well, hey, you said you said you're not a lawyer, but you talked about trespass, and I was like, yeah, you are a lawyer.
I joke all the time because one of my grandfathers was a lawyer, and I joke all the time that like when I get mad and I lose my diplomacy, I turn into a trial lawyer because I'm like, Exhibit A, here's why you're wrong. Exhibit B, here's also why you're wrong. Like, here's my evidence. I rest my case. Like, I just get very like, so when I'm not my best self, I turn into a really dramatic trial lawyer. But no, you obviously have a lot of knowledge that we don't have, and I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. Okay, next question. What is one thing you wish people knew about either this topic, your profession, or enrichment, your choice?
Yes, this topic, people, there's so many people who don't know about this, and we're always telling people, if you suffer a dog bite, you have medical bills, you have a scar, you have lost wages, whatever it is, you are not going after the other person individually. You are not going after them individually. You're not going after their dog. Their dog is not going to be put to sleep. You are simply going after someone's insurance. It's the exact same thing in a car accident case, right? If you're in a car accident, and even if you're not injured and someone causes $2,000 damage to your car, of course you're going to submit a claim so you can have insurance pay it. So this is one thing that people, they always call up and say, like, I was at a family member's house. My son was bit. I don't want to go after my sister. She's my sister. And I said, look, you're not. It's simply people have insurance to cover these types of claims. You're not going after an individual. You're not going after, animal control so they can put the dog down. You're simply just going after insurance. So that is a big thing that people are not aware. If you suffer a dog bite, it's simply going after someone's insurance. You're not going after an individual or the dog. And so I think when you explain it to people that way and you're like, hey, it's like, you would never go get medical treatment and be like, oh, I have health insurance, but don't use it, right? Of course you'd use it. Car accident, of course you can use your insurance. So that's what it's there for.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. Just like on a personal note, I'm on the board of a restorative justice organization. And so like we look for, like, I think a lot of people misunderstand what restorative justice is. And it's not like letting somebody off the hook because bad things happen to them in their life. It's about how to have like accountability and community support. And the restorative justice actually works within the current existing judicial system. But the reason that I'm bringing this up is because I have had experiences in other states where it has been very retaliatory, and it's, to me, from my perspective, it's been kind of an abuse of our system of like, we're going after the dog, we're not going to rest until this dog is euthanized, we'll go after the vet if the vet refuses, like really, really hostile. And when like I read your bio, I was like, okay, you are working within our existing system in a beautiful way, because for you it's not retaliatory, it's justice seeking. You're fighting against these big companies who will do everything they can to avoid a payout, and that is an extraordinary way to operate within the system. And so I just want to say, like, I appreciate how you do your job, because in a perfect world, neither of our professions would exist, but we don't live in that perfect world. And so you are doing your job in the best possible way that somebody could do it. And I really appreciate you for that.
Oh, of course. Thank you. I always tell people everyone hates lawyers until you need one.
Yeah, I don't hate lawyers, actually. I hate our justice system. I don't think it's a very just justice system, and we can work towards improving it. And it's certainly better than before our justice system existed. So, we're improving society through iterations, but I think you do a really good job. Thank you for advocating for your clients and also for the dogs. That's incredible.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. What is one thing you'd love to see improved in your field?
Oh, I wish lawyers were nicer.
To each other, to their clients, to the public? What do you mean?
I love my job. I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer since I could walk. There was never a doubt that I would be doing any of this. I try to get along with everyone. I've got really good working relationships with all the adjusters at the insurance company. I try my best to get along with everyone on the other side. Yeah, as far as being a lawyer, I wish people were just a little bit nicer to each other. I think it goes a long way. And if I have a good working relationship with someone on the other side, I'm going to get a better result, faster result for my client. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. As far as, so I guess that's one thing as being a lawyer that I would like to see changed. And then, as far as like seeing all these dog bites and seeing what's going on with people who I can help, people who I can't help. Like we talked about in the beginning, I'd say one thing, I would like to see change or be different is just to have, if it was as simple as, social situations with kids and a lot of people around, and if you have a dog, it's probably best to just take the dog out of that situation for that high stress, high pressure, tons of chaos situation. It'd probably avoid 50% of dog bites.
I mean, if not more. I think that's being conservative. Yeah.
Right. I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. All of that is excellent. Thank you. What do you love about what you do?
What do I love about what I do? I grew up in a very dysfunctional household, did not have a lot of control over situations. My favorite part about what we do is we're going after insurance companies. We're helping people out who have no control, and we immediately turn the tables. And I absolutely love that. So people call us in a moment of stress and chaos, whether it's a car accident, whether it's a dog bite, they don't know what to do about work. They don't know what to do about medical bills. They don't know what to do about insurance. The moment they hire us, we take care of all of that for people and then just turn the tables. As much as I enjoy working with adjusters and getting along with them and getting good results for my client, people who don't have lawyers, I see this all the time where insurance companies just take advantage of them. I can't tell you how many times people contact us and they're like, I called the insurance company and they offered to like pay my bills and to give me like $2,000. And I like, should I take that? And then like 6 months later, we settled their case for like $75,000. And it's like, what's funny, you brought up something that this resonates with me is you're like, in an ideal world, neither one of us would have our jobs or be doing this, right? It's funny, if insurance companies actually treated people right, I wouldn't have my job either if they did the right thing. But anyway, it's a for-profit business, so it is what it is. But I love it. I love it that someone can come to me in a very chaotic, disruptive point in their life. And I've done this for 20 plus years. And I love being able to just say like, hey, I got this. You take care of yourself. Here, go get medical treatment, rest, get better, and I'll take care of everything. And, it takes all the pressure off and all the chaos going on in someone's life. So that's what I love about it. And this is why I do plaintiffs work, because I love, every single person we represent, an individual client, they're in a terrible situation and we can immediately turn that around for them.
I having spoken to you now, I understand why Allie, when she met you, like immediately emailed me and was like, I'm so excited to get Mike on the podcast. Because another thing that we share in common is that our primary goal is giving our clients and everybody in their household control, agency, right? That's what we focus on with all of the learners in our care, our clients, their kids, their animals, their pets. Our whole job is about giving everybody involved choice, control, and predictability over their circumstances. And what you just said was so beautiful. Like the thing I love about my job is giving my clients control. And it's like, yeah, we're both in the business of giving the learners in our care agency, right? The ability to like influence their own outcomes.
Yeah, no, it's great. And this is I'm just obsessed with what I do. And my wife tells me I work too much, but I love it. And it's awesome too, where it's like when we talk about control, right? So I've had my firm for 13 years, been practicing for 21. So for 8 years, I worked with other people. And then ever since COVID, we're fully remote. I work from home. Everyone at my office works from home. We do have offices to go to meet with clients, depositions and stuff like that. I've never worked this much in my life. And what's funny is I've never felt this much in control of my professional life. So it's like a two-way street for me. So I love helping out my clients giving them control back in their life. And then from a business owner's perspective and doing what we do, like I feel like I have so much control, which I love.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're also there, like, we own our own business. It's a huge machine. We have so much going on. And we all three of us have workaholic tendencies, and we've had to work really hard to like try to work towards a 40-hour work week. But it's hard when you're passionate about what you do. I can definitely empathize with that. Okay. So what are you currently working on? If people want to work with or learn from you, where can they find you?
Sure. So the easiest way to find us, the name of the firm is Mike Agruss Law. No one can spell or pronounce my last name. So the easiest thing to do is just go 844-C-Mike. It's our phone number. It's also our website. So if you go to 844-C-Mike, you'll be able to get in touch with me. We launched last year. It was sort of a pet project, pun intended. I know you said you liked puns. We have a nationwide dog bite site called dogbitelaws.com. It's a really cool site, great resources. It explains the law in every single state. It gives people advice, suggestions on what to do. So if you want to get in touch with me as a lawyer, 844-C-Mike. If you have questions about dog bites or you're just interested in learning more about it, the website's dogbitelaws.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. It's been a joy to talk to you, and I really appreciate how you show up for your clients and for dogs in general.
Thank you. Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if there's someone in your life who also needs to hear this, be sure to text it to them right now. If you're a pet parent looking for more tips on enrichment, behavior modification, and finding harmony with your pet, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Pet Harmony Training. If you're a behavior training professional dedicated to enrichment for yourself, your clients, and their pets, check us out on TikTok and Instagram at Pet Harmony Pro. As always, links to everything we discussed in this episode are in the show notes. Thank you to Ellen Yoakum for editing this episode and making us sound good. Our intro music is from Penguin Music on Pixabay. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. That helps more pet lovers and professionals find us so they can bring enrichment into their world too. Thank you for listening, and here's to harmony.